a little darker. They have slightly different names. In that deck, courage or strength is called lust. So it kind of, so it just, and the illustrations are a little bit, I would say, from what I've seen, they're a little bit simpler. They just don't have as much scenery in them. You're kind of going by the key word that's printed on the card. There's also the other kind of decks where it's just the symbol of the suit on there, like it's just 6 wands or 7 swords or something like that. And I personally don't get much out of that. Some people are fine with it. I like to start people out, and this is how I was started out, was on the Rider-Waite. I just go with the basic Rider-Waite deck.
Can you spell that? Is it writer as in writer, or is it a name?
Rider as in, like riding a bike.
Got it. Rider-Waite?
Rider-Waite, and that's Waite.
Ah, thank you. Okay.
And Coleman. She's Pamela Coleman Smith. I'm sorry, I was calling her Smith Coleman. She's Coleman Smith.
Okay.
And she is actually the illustrator, the original. She's the lady. I believe Mr. Waite approached her, and she was originally a scenery designer, and he approached her about making these drawings. And so that's what she did.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
So I would recommend one of the Rider-Waite or any clone, what they call a clone thereof, and there's literally hundreds of them out there. Some are readily available, others are out of print. So you might go on eBay or other places, and there's some extraordinarily expensive ones out there because of that fact.
Got it. Okay. That's actually fascinating, and it's really awesome to have some guidance. So thank you. So I think this question is similar to the ones you answered already about using the cards as visual brainstorming or an idea processor. But if I'm like trying to make a decision about something, the tarot cards can help me make a better decision. How do you use them that way?
You can do something as simple as a yes/no kind of spread, and you're just, and that's, 2 cards, just, and see what comes up, whether it's, you start getting into something a little bit complicated. I won't say it's complicated, but a little bit more layered. It's not a cut and dried kind of thing, but whether you're looking for cards such as the star card or the sun card, those are typically cards that say, yeah, full speed ahead, do it. Then you've got other cards that are a little bit more difficult, challenging, and it doesn't mean that your goal or objective isn't going to happen. It's just that you're going to have to work a little harder for it. You might have to, as I said, overcome some difficulties to still get to the goal. But when you think about life in general, if everything was handed to you, what would we learn from that, right?
Mm-hmm. I like the idea of using them as a yes/no answer. That's nice, and it sounds simple too. Okay, so I have another question being sent to me for you, and this is an interesting question. Any chance, and in quotations it says, outside vibrations can enter through using these cards? Do you understand that question?
I think some folks, if I'm interpreting that correctly, there are some folks who are reluctant to have tarot readings because of various upbringing practices.
Mm-hmm.
And they've seen movies and TV, and it's kind of tarnished tarot's reputation a little bit.
Yep.
Kind of introduced a lot of myth and legend into it. If you take a look at, again, just referring back to the Rider-Waite Smith deck, there is a lot of religious symbolism in there. I mean, we have angels, we have Adam and Eve, and there's just, and we have apple trees, and there's just all kinds of of symbolism in there that is taken directly from mostly Judeo-Christian religious beliefs. And so other people might think that, like with, I guess, Ouija boards and a few other things, that they're kind of opening a portal.
Yes, exactly.
And I just don't think that that's a factor in this. I am more into it kind of dips into your subconscious and kind of brings things that are kind of down in there that have been suppressed or forgotten about, and it brings them up to the fore, and then it allows you to elaborate on them.
Yes, which actually can be scary for some people sometimes, but I always think about the deep healing opportunity there.
Yes.
Yeah, it's powerful. So sometimes I'll pull one of my animal spirit cards. I have the farmer deck. And to help me when I'm confused about something or looking for validation of an intuitional message that I got. So tell me a little bit about how tarot helps you to remove obstacles or challenges.
Yeah, it kind of, it's one of those things where if you're, say, using it to, say, improve your romantic situation, it can help you learn a little bit more about who you are, kind of that really, you talked about it being scary, about that self-analysis. But how often do we really get to focus on ourselves from, I'd say, a more objective point of view that what the cards are going to offer? It's, then you can examine, your wants and needs, your goals, objectives, and, what are you looking for in a partner, ways to keep that relationship interesting. And you can also use that same technique in the work place, where you're looking for, what are your wants and needs in a job, what kind of work partners are you looking for, especially if you're going to in a small business and you're looking to either you're kind of evaluating your supervisor, or you're evaluating someone who's a co-owner of a business, something like that. So when you enter into these various relationships, whether it's romantic, business, family, friends, you can use tarot to sort of evaluate all those things, and all those pieces of what makes a relationship.
So it's making me want to ask you, you do readings for other people quite a bit. What's the way that you use it personally the most?
Personally, I like to kind of keep it light. When I pull cards for myself, it's more of a what's the most important thing I need to know today kind of thing, and just pull a card and make a note of it, but not overly evaluate it or overthink it too much. And then maybe come back in the evening and see, if it figured at all in the day's activities. I try not to let it influence me, because I frequently have a list of places to go, things to do, people to see, that kind of thing. And so unless something really comes along that really alters that schedule, I just kind of use it as a, just sort of that extra special something, that adds to the day.
Yeah, I love the question, what do I need to know most for today? Like, just,
right.
It keeps you in the moment.
Yes.
So Toni, some of my listeners will probably call you my best woo-woo guest. So
okay.
Tell me how you stepped into these gifts of yours in the first place and didn't look back as far as the labels.
Yeah, that's a little bit odd, because I started out life as a life scientist. That's my training. I have an animal science degree and a management degree. And when I was, everything was science and math and physics and what have you. So when I retired from all of that, I just said, hey, I'm going to kind of go back to my roots a little bit, because as children, I don't know if you realize, but children are very intuitive. And it's not, and as they grow and they get into school, they kind of get those, they sort of get closed off and cut off and kind of shut down a little bit. So they don't necessarily, but I'm sure we've all heard kids say something or do something, and it's just, wow, what's going on there? But they are really, truly the most intuitive creatures on the planet, I think.
I agree.
So getting into it, I just decided, as I said, to just return to that openness and that just wanting to get just do that 180 from from 25 years, 30 years or so of having to conform.
Yes. Yeah, that's fantastic. I love hearing you talk about this. I have a couple of those very intuitive kinds of kids. And I have, being on a healing journey myself, I really have thought a lot about how to encourage and nourish those gifts that they were born with. And, through school and different things, like you say, they kind of get it conditioned out of them. But I guess having a mom like me will help, as far as like them being able to connect with their intuition and continue to be able to connect as they become young adults and older adults. It's so important that the connection that we have can guide our life in amazing and magical ways if we stay with that practice. And it is a practice, I think.
Right. It's a bit like learning an instrument or working out. It's a muscle. It's a skill. You have to work on it and develop it. And some days you're gonna miss the mark, and some days you're gonna hit on all the cylinders, and you're just gonna have an amazing day doing readings at a fair or something. So it's just one of those things that the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Yes, for sure. So I have one more question. I have a lot of questions being typed to me today. The one that's coming from my friend Shirley says she usually cleanses her cards when she buys them, and then cleanses them before asking a new question. So she wants to know if you have any suggestions on cleansing in general, like how often is it needed, that kind of thing. And you might want to explain what that means to our listeners, because they may not understand what cleansing means.
Okay. Cleansing or clearing, and it doesn't necessarily apply just to the cards. It can be a room, a house, your vehicle, whatever. And it can take the form of a lot of things, where you can smudge it with some sage or sweetgrass, or you can place it with some crystals, usually plain old clear quartz or amethyst, which is a type of quartz. You can place it with crystals and let it sit for however long, overnight. You can you can put it out in a protected area in sunlight, or put it out in moonlight, and again, keep it protected, because we are talking about paper and cardboard and ink here. So you don't want dew or anything to damage the cards. So it really depends on, you could do all of those things, one of those things, a couple of those things. It's some things, if you're doing a lot of readings like I do, when I clean the cards or return them to, the randomness of the universe, so to speak, I simply shuffle them. I don't necessarily carry around a trunk full of sage or crystals or anything like that. Every time I shuffle those cards between readings, it's basically clearing and cleansing the deck from anything that went before, and it's ready to go for the next person. And as far as how often to do it, yeah, you can do it daily. You can do it, as I said, with work with sun energy, work with moon energy. It's totally subjective to what the person wants to work with.
And clearing and cleansing is really about an energy shift. right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So